before this episode, if you want to see the words as well as hear them, get exclusive content, access to the regular episodes before anyone else, and take part in the monthly questions and comments edition, you can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify and get all of that for the price of a very average coffee a month. Okay, let's get on with it. When young children go missing, suspicion often unfairly turns on the parents. But sometimes what the parents say just sounds wrong.
Asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife.
Are these guys concerned? Or are they conning us? I'll show you how to tell by looking at the words they say. So if you're new here, you're going to learn how to look at one of these interviews and see if there is doubt in the way that they answer. And if you're a regular, you're going to watch this and feel good about what you've learned on this channel. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I have studied the words of thousands of criminals, so I can show you how people use words to lie, to cheat and manipulate, and what the truth sounds like too. So it's a bugbear for me that when people appear on TV giving interviews as a relative of someone that's gone missing or someone that's gone murdered, very often people will jump in and go, these guys are suspicious, based on what? Maybe just the fact that statistically sometimes that is correct. But how can we look at their words and see whether those suspicions are well-founded or whether they're just hot air? So we're going to look at these guys. It's Trezell and Jacqueline West. And in December 2020, they reported two boys that they'd adopted as missing. They were called Orel and Orson. Now, locally, people were very suspicious of Trezell and Jacqueline, and so these guys spoke to the media to try to clear things up. One more point, this was December 2020 when they spoke, so the peak of COVID, hence the masks over their face. You can either see that if you're watching this, or if you hear it, sometimes it may be a bit muffled. So let's listen to the first things that Trezell and Jacqueline spoke about.
We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We've felt so helpless. And seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot.
So, tell us what happened the night the kids went missing.
Okay.
From our yard.
Okay. It was cold. I was going to make a fire. There's a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two would go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard. We keep them close. So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. I talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see them.
What are your thoughts so far? Where is this registering on your suspicion-ometer? The first thing we hear is Jacqueline talking. And she says, as our opening remark, we just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We felt so helpless, and seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out means a lot. Let's dig into some of those words. First of all, she starts off by saying, we just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. Now, when I hear the word just, very often deception is happening around it. In this case, I think there's a lot more going on here. She wants to do a lot more things, but she only wants to focus on the thanks. We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen, is what she says. I think there's a lot more going on there. We don't just want to do that. There is a lot more going on, and she's hiding it behind that word just and saying only focus on what it is I'm saying here, which is thanking everyone, being nice, thanking the community for all the support we've seen. And it's support we've seen, not had. We tend to think of support as something that we have from people, not see from people. So they're talking, or she's talking about seeing support, not having support, not feeling that support, but seeing it happen. And she says, again, we felt so helpless, and seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot. So twice she's spoken about support as being something that she's seen, not something she's felt, not something that she's had. And look, if I'm going, is this suspicious? Is it like that she knows support is futile? She knows that support and searching is not going to lead anywhere. But what's important to her, because she wants to look like an innocent parent, is seeing that people believe these boys are missing. So what's important to her is seeing the search, seeing the support. That means people are believing us. Now, just pulling out that word seen is not proof that she's lying and that she's guilty, but it's a data point that I'm going to collect and hold on as we go through this. And it's further built by when she says everyone's out here really looking and helping. Well, as opposed to pretend looking and helping. And again, it's like, could go with the fact of what's important to her is that people believe these boys are missing, have run off, as you've heard, and they're out looking for them, because that means the story is going in, people are concerned, and it's good that they are really looking. And maybe we heard some more about Trezell doing some searching there. Was he really looking during that search? I'm suspicious already. I'm one paragraph in. The reporter questions, so tell us what happened the night the two went missing. And there's some reluctance from the two of them to just launch in and tell the story. Jacqueline says, oh my word. And Trezell kind of goes, oh, okay, as if, I really don't want to do this. Now, that could again be suspicious. It could be that it's just very traumatic for them, and telling this story is going to bring that trauma back. But there is some reluctance to tell the story. That's another data point there. And then Trezell takes up the story. He says, it was cold. I was going to make a fire. Your boys are missing. That's what the press want to know about, not what you were doing. And this feels like storytelling to me. He's leading with reasons why things happened. It was cold. I was making a fire, not with what happened, not with the boys disappearing. And also, very often, especially with parents who have claimed that their children has gone missing when they know fine well they've done something, they're hiding some guilty action towards their children. They will do a lot of work with their words to tell us how good parents they are. And here he is appearing very virtuous. It was cold, therefore I was making a fire, hoping that this storytelling also does some image management and says, look what a great guy I am. I was making fire for the family. I'm a provider and a protector. Please don't think of me as an abuser. So I think here he could be doing some image management. He then carries on. There's a lot of wood in this area, so it's just more reasons. The boys are missing. Tell us about that. In this area right here next to our house, I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. So we've just got more reasons. And also look at his tenses there. I opened up the back gate. Past tense. He's telling a story that happened in the past. We would expect the past tense there. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. Present tense. And that's not what we expect when someone's talking about events in the past. Sometimes if we're making things up, then we're not making it up. We're not getting the words from the part of our mind that's recalling things, which is when we use that part of our mind, we just automatically put past tense in there when we're talking. If he is making that up and it's in the part of his mind where he's making up something, very much he's seeing it happen now for the first time because he's creating it. And that part of our mind, that uses present tense. So is that what's going on here? Did he actually open the gate? And, there's a part of me that's going, oh yeah, when the police turn up, you want to show the open gate. So I did open the gate, but the throwing wood, bringing it inside the house is in present tense. So just more reasons there, not the main action. What happened when the boys went missing? The children aren't in the story yet. There's one character in this story, and that is Trezell. He's the main character here, not the children, which is what he's been asked about. He carries on and says, my wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts. Actually wrapping gifts, what, not pretend wrapping gifts? Again, this is a bit of virtue, I think. Wrapping gifts, family, December, so I'm guessing Christmas, holiday gifts, and that's what she was doing. Yeah, well done. Look what a great, supportive, loving family we are. Is there image management going on here? It's a question. So we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. So once again, we have this virtue, and then we thought it would be a good idea. And what is it a good idea to do? Something virtuous again. Go and play with chalk on the back patio, not, play with your computer games or, let's sit up and we'll watch TV. No, go outside and play with chalk on the back patio, kind of forgetting it's cold. He doesn't say they wrapped up or anything like that, but I really think image management here, great parent. And he introduces the children at this point and he calls them our youngest two. These boys are missing. He should be really, really concerned about them. He should be feeling his bond with them at the strongest at this point, and yet he doesn't name them. He just calls them our youngest two when he introduces them. He says, I do not let them go out on the dirt in the backyard. I keep them close. Resume statement time. What a great parent again there. I don't let them go in the dirt in the backyard. I keep them close. And this to me is a big red flag, because so often when I study the words of parents talking who've done something bad to the children but are pretending they've gone missing and I don't know where they are, they will, without being prompted, tell us what great parents they are. How very often they'll talk about feeding the children or something like that to show how, nurturing they are of these children. They was playing with chalk, and I don't know what he says next. It's came out the house, I think, but maybe he misspeaks and says came in the house. I saw them there. So just once more, this resume, I am a good parent statement. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. So he's, again, the main character in here. So he's really accounting for his movements. It's like if you were asked for an alibi, what did you do? You account for your movements, not about his perspective of the children going missing. I went in the house, I came back out, I didn't see them now. Not then, that now is present tense. Now is very much about now, using present tense again, not that I didn't see them there or something like that, which would be present tense. He then says, I immediately went back in, and that word immediately I've red flagged. Why? Because it feels to me like, the immediately doesn't need to be there. It would mean the same thing if he said, I went back in. We kind of fill in the blanks a little bit and go, you've just discovered your children aren't where you thought they were. You, of course, would move fast, but he wants to tell us he moved fast. Again, it's sort of that virtue thing, but also he wants to convey a sense of urgency in his actions. And why would he want to convey a sense of urgency in his actions? Maybe if there was no urgency there. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said no. They should be outside playing with chalk. Now that feels really constructed, doesn't it? No, honey, they should be outside playing with chalk. No, I thought they were outside with you, or I thought they were outside. They should be outside playing with chalk. Playing with chalk again. Yeah, what a wholesome pastime. I said, well, I didn't see them. And listen, when people recount conversations word for word, like what he's trying to do here, that happens mostly when we're making up those conversations. When we're recounting conversations that we've had, we tend to sort of paraphrase and say, then they said something like, or whatever. Just have a listen. Notice when you recount a conversation with someone later on this week, do you say word for word what you remember the conversation being? Because we very rarely remember conversations word for word. Or do you convey the concepts that you spoke to the person about? So Trezell carries on. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. And there's a little bit of distance there again. He's showing a little bit of action. I started searching my backyard. Again, it's just an extra word. Why not say I searched my backyard? I started searching my backyard. Feels like he's got a script of actions. I went in, I went out, I was chopping wood, I had this conversation, started searching. I mean, red flags galore. In fact, I'm not seeing very much that reassures me in anything this couple have said. I searched the whole thing. I realised I'd left the gate open and I panicked. Came back inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that hadn't panned out, I got in the van. So let me just get this right. I realised I'd left the gate open. Therefore, I'm thinking that means you think they've run away from the house, out of the yard, into the street, into the area surrounding the house. So what did you do? Went back in and searched the house? Me and my wife, they both searched the house. Not one person searched inside and one person went, gee, they're out the back gate. I better go and do that. Once that hadn't panned out, I got in the van. Now, you're searching for your children. And if you're a parent, I bet you've lost a child at some point, got separated from them in a store or something like that. And it is the most frightening thing ever. Do you say when you can't find them, that hasn't panned out? No, that's when you say something, that you've tried hasn't worked. It's kind of trivial. Yeah, that didn't pan out. Not finding your children. He carries on. I look down the street in both directions. Well done for checking in both directions. He's really keen to get across how thorough this search was, isn't he? Why are people really keen to get across things? Sometimes because they're lies. Sometimes because they didn't happen. It was getting dark, getting cold. It was already cold. You told us it was cold and that's why you were having a fire. And I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners and he's got in his van twice there. He said once the search inside the house hadn't panned out, I got in the van. And then he says, I looked down the street in both directions and I got in the van. He got in the van twice. This is a hallmark of deceptive stories because when you haven't experienced the events in real time, then the words that you're using come from a different place. And it's very hard to do, which is why he's got in the van twice. I don't believe this is a truthful story. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. I talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see them. So in all this opening section, so many red flags. The resume, the virtuous statements, that present tense that was in there. No names for the boys at all. He's talking about process over emotions. He doesn't actually explain any of his emotions, but he's all about process in this very linear way, apart from when he gets in the van twice, those double actions. And also all these words that are put in there that don't need to be in there to show how quickly he acted and how rigorous his search was. Let's listen to some more from Trezell and Jacqueline.
So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. So I called the cops. Cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. And they had us just sitting there and we wanted to keep searching. But everybody came out in droves. And I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside.
The cops told us the best are out here.
The best are out here searching. And we appreciate it. And nobody ever could tell, we could never talk to anybody. And that was the issue.
We just want to thank everybody.
We really want to thank you guys.
Please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know.
Call the cops. Call California, the city police department. Call them and let them know what you've seen, if you see anything.
So Trezell there picks up the story from where he left it. He says, so then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We got to get going, so I called the cops. So then I came home and so then, again, this is a bit of and so storytelling. And this happened, so that happened. Lots of reasons for explaining away the actions rather than just telling us what the actions were. So then I came home and I told my wife, we need to call the cops, but it's I need help. Interesting. Is that like a little bit of an embedded confession in there? I need help. We got to get going, so I called the cops. Why does calling the cops need an explanation? Your two children are missing. You've searched the house. They're not there. You've searched the nearby area. They're not there. Why do you need to explain why you need to call the cops? It's getting dark. And, it keeps getting dark in his story. Also, calling them the cops is, sometimes I think cops is a bit of an adversarial word to use. Police is something that people maybe use in a bit more of a formal sense when they're there on your side. Anyway, cops came. First thing they did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. Now, this is all about supposedly the searching for the children. Your two adopted children, very young boys, are missing. And yet what I seem to be getting here is a scenario planning for why we didn't come out and join in the search. Because it was the first thing the cops did was tell us to stay in the house so they can get a hold of us. Don't know why they didn't have phones or stuff like that. And they had us just sitting there. And we wanted to keep searching, but everybody came out in droves. And I wanted to thank you guys that night, but we couldn't go outside. So he's really concerned with his image and explaining why he was in the house. The concern for the kids, I'm not really feeling. He's moved on from missing children to just expressions of why he didn't search. Also how grateful he is as he's trying to get the local community on side. It's all story management. Jacqueline interrupts next and said, the cops told us the best are out there. This is a phrase they'll use a few times during this interview. And Trezell picks up, the best are out there searching, and we appreciate it. And nobody could ever tell. We could never talk to anybody, and that was the issue. So let's break some of this down. Number one, Jacqueline seems to interrupt. Trezell interrupts her a few times as well. But when Jacqueline interrupts, he tends to mirror her language. I wonder who's the leader in this relationship. You know, we can see him sitting with his shoulders, putting out the muscles like that, as if he's got some sort of dominant body posture. She's looking down. She's a bit less dominant, but he tends to follow her language. So she says, the cops told us the best are out there. He says, the best are out there searching, and we appreciate it. And nobody could ever tell. And he stops and he says something different. We could never talk to anybody. Nobody could ever tell. What was he going to say there? We can't assume what he was going to say, but nobody could ever tell us we didn't want to help. Maybe. Nobody could ever tell why we weren't out there. Maybe that's what he's going to say. Interesting. He changes it though and says, we could never talk to anybody. And that was the issue. Trezell, you've just told us your two youngest adopted boys are missing. It's dark, it's cold. And the issue was you couldn't talk to anybody? Yeah, I actually believe you're telling the truth there. That is your issue. How people see you. How the story has been managed. Your issue is not your two missing kids. I can see that from all your words. Jacqueline says, we just want to thank everybody. And Trezell interrupts and says the exact same thing again. We really want to thank you guys. Jacqueline says, please, if anybody has seen them, please call, let somebody know, which is very vague when you are looking for the return of your two missing children. Just let somebody know. Yeah. Let your sister in Melbourne, Australia know. That's what that could mean. Trezell seems to get that. Call the cops, call California City Police Department and let them know what you've seen. If you see anything, which is very strange again. So he realizes call somebody is so vague, not the words of somebody that really wants help. Just call somebody. He nails it down and says, yeah, call the police, but let them know what you've seen. If you see anything, some doubt there in his words that anyone is going to see anything. Do you want some more from these guys?
Our boys, they are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here in this area, and I really would like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if make sure. That's it. Because I don't. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. If you got any questions.
Oh no, you're good.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, this is the first time we're hearing from you guys, and I can't imagine what you guys are going through. I can't even fathom it. For you guys, for people who are thinking that there's some kind of foul play involved, we just spoke to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys, and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved. That she thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want is to find our babies. That's it.
So there, he starts off by saying, our boys, they're going to be rambunctious. Sigh. Okay. I don't know if he knows what rambunctious means. It's not even a word I can easily pull a definition out from my head, but it's not a good word, is it? You don't say in a nice way, yeah, oh, I love you, you're very rambunctious. You don't do that. So he seems to be putting some negative thoughts onto these two missing boys, which is, again, another red flag. Parents who are genuinely wanting their children to be found will stress their good qualities. This is a good child. This child brings so much to the world, so please search harder. Please search if you're not searching, because this is a good child. But no, he seems to be putting his child down, unless he doesn't know what rambunctious means and thinks it means something completely different and means something nice. And then he says they are going to be here in this area. Now, that got me interested, because this could go two ways. Is that knowledge leaking out? They are going to be in this area. Or is that hoping that this search is confined to this area because he knows they are further away? Maybe let me know what you think about that one in the comments. They are going to be here in this area. Also, he doesn't say what he bases that on. You know, the children in his story have gone out the gate, the opened gate. Anything could have happened to them. There's no proof that they're here in this area. He doesn't say what he's basing that on. Apart from the fact, I would really like to go in the houses, but it's not because I want to invade people's privacy. I just want to know if they... Jacqueline interrupts and says, make sure. That's it, because I don't... Go ahead. I'm sorry if you've got any questions. Make sure of what? He doesn't finish that one off. You know, make sure of what? Why does he want to go into people's houses? Again, it's just this all tied to the fact that he hopes that this search is confined to this very local area, because maybe he knows the more time they spend there, the better it's going to be for him. Then we got a really big question from one of the journalists, which ends up saying, we've just spoken to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved and she thinks you guys did something. And what we get to that very direct accusation is not a denial that they did something. They appear reasonable and say, that's understandable. And that's understandable, says Jacqueline. What's your response to that? And Trezell says, that's understandable. And we can see again how she is leading his language a lot. He says, I would think the same thing. I mean, that's exactly the point. And if we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. And that's all I want, is to find our babies. That's it. So there is no denial. So it's put to them that the biological mother thinks you guys, there's foul play involved. And they don't say, no, there's not. They do not deny it. They're so keen to be reasonable and pretend that they're not offended by the accusation. That's understandable. That's understandable. Trezell tries to make it look like it's a win. Yeah, that's the point. We're all in the same boat together, thinking the same things. If we can find our babies, then guess what? That's no. What he's implying there is if these children are found, he's won. He's won the argument with the biological mom and proven that nothing bad has happened. But no, instead, what he does is, that's no. You know, not the boys would be back with me, they would be safe, and that would be the win there. No, it's the fact I would have won this argument against the biological mother. Right. In a moment, things get a hell of a lot more strange, and we continue the chat about the biological mother too. We'll go back to the episode in a moment, but if this breakdown hits home, make sure you're following or subscribe to this podcast, because what I'm doing here isn't just a one-off episode. We are building a skill. And like any talent worth having, it takes repetition. The more you hear these patterns, the more naturally you'll spot them in your actual life. I hear it from listeners so often. Eventually, you can't unhear this stuff. You'll be in a meeting or on a call and you'll start noticing the subtext earlier than anyone else, which gives you an edge in how you respond. If you aren't ready to commit to training just yet, but you found this episode valuable, do me a quick favour. Leave a rating or share this episode. It's the best way to feed the algorithms and ensure these tools get into the ears of the people who genuinely need them. And if you want to be more careful with how you speak, to talk with more clarity, authority and confidence, then do search for my other podcast. It's available everywhere. Just search for How Words Work. Right, let's get back to the episode.
And I talked to her this morning, and I really wanted to tell her that I am completely sorry, because we were entrusted with her children, and they came to us, and they became our children, and we named them. And they are our children, and so we want them back. So please, if y'all could get back on what you guys are doing, we should be able to get a hold of somebody, but they took all of our tech, so they wanted to, I guess, just rule us out, which makes sense. That's part of the investigation. So that's pretty much it.
Have you guys, you talked to the police all last night?
Yes.
So you guys willfully gave them your
Everything.
technology,
Yes.
the car?
Yes.
How did they get a search warrant? Did you guys?
I
Oh, no
don't see
idea.
why they got one, but they got one. We
Yeah,
would have
they
let them
didn't
take
need one,
anything.
but-
We would have let them take everything. We let them come in and search with us. We asked them to come do that.
What did they take?
Just tech. And that's it. Like our phones.
From the house, though, did they?
So he continues talking about the biological mother. And I talked to her this morning, and I really wanted to tell her that I am completely sorry because we were entrusted with her children and they came to us and they became our children. Again, a bit of a sense of him winning over her. They're not your children anymore. They're mine. Don't think this guy can keep himself locked down. He's got to be winning things all the time. But I talked to her this morning and I really wanted to tell her that I am completely sorry. Well, did you tell her that or not? Because what you're saying here is you wanted to tell her you're completely sorry, but you don't say that you did tell her you were completely sorry. You don't let us in on the conversation at all. You give us what you wanted to say, not what you said, not what the conversation was. And I am completely sorry. Again, is this some sort of embedded confession? I am completely sorry. He goes on to talk about the children. We named them and they are our children. Oh, Trezell, just don't. And so we want to get them back. And this is, again, just horrible. He's saying the only reason he wants these children back is because they are his children. There doesn't seem to be a lot of humanity and empathy in this guy at all. The reason that he wants these children back, and he says it there, is because they are our children. So that seems to infer that if the children next door went missing, he wouldn't care less. They're not his children. He doesn't care less. What he's trying to do there, I think, is just show what a great dad I am. These are my kids, so, I love them. I'm a very good father. Therefore, please don't be suspicious of me. So please, if you could all get back on with what you're doing and search. So he's actually very skillfully moved on from the accusations. He hasn't really dealt with the accusation about foul play once. In what he says. He moves on from the accusations to keep the search going. And again, and we saw this, Scott Peterson is one for this, when he was asking people all the time to search for Lacey. And he was able to frame any accusation put his way, any insinuation put his way as things that were derailing the search for Lacey, trying to make villains of the people asking these questions by saying, you ask me that question, but you're delaying the search for Lacey. Or the more that people suspect me and say they suspect me, the less people look for Lacey. Is that what's going on here with this guy? He says we should be able to get hold of somebody, but they took all of our tech. So they wanted to, I guess, just rule us out, which makes sense as part of the investigation. So once again, trying to appear all reasonable about the way the police are handling them. Yeah, all makes sense. It's understandable. But look at the low confidence there. So they wanted to, I guess, just rule us out. And we've got that word just there again. Don't focus on the fact they've taken the tech because they might be suspicious and want to see what the last movements were or anything that's documented on their tech that might say there's foul play involved here. He just wants to say, yeah, the only reason they took this was to rule us out. Just rule us out. I only want you to focus. That word just tells us that. I only want you to focus on the fact that we're ruling us out. But he also says, I guess. Which makes sense as the part of the investigation. And then he says, so that's pretty much it. Now, if he said that's it, I would think he's trying to control the conversation and shut down. That's it. No more questions. But he says that's pretty much it, which is interesting. That means there's more. Pretty much it means there's more. Have you guys talked to the police a lot? Yes, says Jacqueline. Finally, I think an answer I believe. They have talked to the police a lot. And you can see how different it is from all the other answers. It's very short. Directly addresses what we've got going on there. So you guys willfully gave up your, and Jacqueline interrupts, everything. And Trezell says, yes. And they interrupt the question. Now, this is a bad move to interrupt the question. It says, I'm ready for this question. I don't even want you to finish the question. She's so keen to show how cooperative she's been that she interrupts halfway through. You guys willfully gave them your, and she says everything, which, look, factually, they didn't give everything, right? They're wearing clothes, yeah? I'm sure there's stuff they didn't take from the house, but she goes to this 100% stupid absolute. So keen is she to say how cooperative they are. And listen, as a point for you, if you want to build trust with people when you talk, don't interrupt questions to give the answer. Even if you think you know where the question is going to go, it sounds prepared. It erodes your trust if you do what they did there. So you guys willfully gave them your everything. Yes, don't do it. Don't interrupt questions. Listen, really listen to the question and answer the question. The car, they're asked, yes. How did they get it is the question. How did they get a search warrant? And Trezell stutters. He says, I don't see why they got one, but they got one. We would have let them take anything. So we've got some mismatches going on here. But first of all, that stutter, when we stutter on I, we're a bit nervous about saying something on behalf of ourselves. I don't see why they got one. Interestingly, how did they get a search warrant was the question. And he says why they got one in his answer. So maybe he well knows how they got that search warrant. But they got one. We would have let them take anything. Well, you've just told us you gave them everything. So why are you repeating yourself? And would have let them take anything? Has that changed? Because woulds in the past. We would have let them take everything. We let them come in and search with us. With us? That's interesting. You didn't let them go in and search by themselves. You had to be with them when they did it. We asked them to come and do that. We asked them to come and search. Again, maybe is this just showing how thorough he wanted to be? What did they take? Just tech, and that's it, like our phones. From the house, they're asked, and they don't even answer that question. They just sort of nod. If you could see the video, they're just sort of nodding. But there's something a little bit, for me, there that they were only expecting things in the house to be looked at, and they've looked a little bit further, or some nerves there. Let's listen to some more from them. And this is an answer to an indistinct question. We can't make out what the question is at all, but their words are still very informative.
Yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Again, we were told the best are out here looking already. Just to stay put, they have more questions. And there was literally a cop with us the whole time in there.
He had sitting down. We would ask, can we go help? They had to sit down.
Said nope.
He said, no, we got the best out there.
So
we
it's
need
not,
you guys here in case we have more questions.
I don't want you guys thinking we didn't try. We actually looked
tried.
before we called the police.
Yes.
And I imagine the mind-boggling part is the search for information. What happened? Where are they?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
And
And just so we are able to present the information correctly, at what time did you guys notice your kids went missing? And at what time were they reported missing to the police?
It's about, I think it was about 4:30, going on 5. It was getting dark, like I said.
5-ish.
5-ish. That's about it. That's when everything played out.
And then when did you guys call the police to report them missing?
After we searched a little bit around here, it was dark, so we definitely we got worried.
Would you say it was maybe within an hour, a couple hours?
No, it was within minutes of us getting finished with our search.
Okay.
It was within minutes.
Oh, I've just spotted something there that I haven't spotted before. This is why I love words. There's two things actually in there that I spotted that I haven't spotted before. The more I look, the more I see. So Jacqueline starts there by saying, yeah, we seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. Seriously? Felt? You know, like, wow, your children are out there. Of course you did. Why do you feel the need to tell us this? That you seriously felt like we needed to be out here. We did. She's trying too hard to persuade for my liking. I'm not sure they really did want to be out part of the search. She says, again, we were told the best are out there looking. So once more, we have this repetition of the best are out there looking. I think this is either something they've heard or something that they've agreed. We need to repeat. Why were we not out there? Because the best were out there. Let's make sure that, what would we have added to the search? Because trained professional searchers were out there. And she points out, she said this before, something that liars do a lot, point out how consistent they are, how they're repeating themselves. Therefore, they must be honest because I've said this before. She says there was literally a cop with us the whole time there. I said it very Scottish there. And Trezell says, and interrupts, he had sitting down. He would ask, can we get help? They had us sit down. Now, this is one of the things that I hadn't spotted before. When people talk about sitting down, it very often it refers to tension. And tension in a scenario might not come out in someone saying it was very tense. It might come out in words talking about sitting down. And he's got sitting down there twice. I think there's sitting down earlier on in the interview as well. So I think what he is conveying there is a lot of tension around the cops being in the house. These guys are way more concerned about looking like they wanted to find the boys. As you can see there, she's being so persuasive. So they want to look like they're concerned rather than actually being concerned and finding the boys. You'll notice, we're now quite a ways into this interview. Still haven't heard these boys' names. Not at all. He said nope, talking about the policeman. says Jacqueline. And once again, she informs Trezell's language. He repeats it. He said, no, we've got the best out there. Are the best out there? I think that we've got that point now. We need you guys here in case you have more questions. And then she says, I don't want you guys thinking we didn't try. And I believe that. In fact, I really do believe that. You do not want us thinking that you didn't try, because that's what's most important to you in all of this. Not finding the boys, but convincing that you wanted to look for the boys. We actually looked before we called the police. And once more, not we looked before we called the police. We actually looked before we called the police. Well done for actually doing it. The language is trying too hard to persuade us. She could have just said we searched before we called the police, but it's we actually looked before we called the police. I don't think they actually looked at all, and looked, not searched, just looked. Very different two words, you know. Then one of the reporters says, I imagine the mind-boggling part is the search for information. What happened? Where are they? Etc. etc. And just so we're able to present the information correctly, at what time did you guys notice your kids went missing? At what time were they reported missing to the police? Trezell says, it's about, I believe, I think. So no confidence in the time there at all. No, none whatsoever. It's about, vague. I believe, I think it was about 4:30 going on 5. Huge big window right there. And with all the vagueness that's going on as well, that could possibly cover a couple of hours. You know, if they went missing at 3:30, he could say, I said it was about that. It was getting dark, like I said. We know it was getting dark. It seems to be something that is more important for you to say than these children's names. Jacqueline says 5-ish. Trezell, can you believe what he does after she says 5-ish? Repeats what she said. 5-ish. That's about it. That's when everything played out. Whoa. Not when the boys went missing. That's when I realized they went missing. That's when everything played out. That's a scenario he's talking about. That is something that's a little bit more imaginary or conceptual to me than the sheer panic of knowing that your children have gone missing. You'll notice as well the question was, what time did the boys go missing and what time were they reported to the police? And they haven't dealt with the report to the police part of the question, which the reporter notices. When did you guys call the police to report them missing? And this is the bit that I noticed, again, Jacqueline says, after we searched a little bit around here, it was dark, so we definitely, we got worried. That's very different from the story that was told at the start, where it was just Trezell who went searching. She stayed at home. He went searching in the van around there. If they did both, because it's we searched a little bit around here, if it was we doing the searching, he skipped that part of the story in his setup. So we've got some contradictions going on there. And after we searched a little bit around here, what, just enough so that someone saw you do it, like this gentleman that you saw earlier on there, and thought, I'll mention the missing children to him so he knows we're searching, so we can prove we were searching. She says it was dark, talking in the present tense there, but it was getting dark according to Trezell all the time. But for her, it was dark. And then, so we got worried. Again, definitely doesn't need to be there. We got worried. We'd be direct and enough. But she's having to tell us these things really happened. You know, I was actually searching. I was definitely worried. She's trying too hard to show she was concerned. Question, would you say it was maybe within an hour or a couple of hours? No, it was within minutes of us getting finished with our search. It was within minutes. Getting finished with our search. You hadn't finished the search because you hadn't found them. Your search was still on. You wanted help with your search. You wanted the police there to continue the search. You should not have thought of the search was finished unless the search you did was a performative action. Once we've done that, it's finished and we'll go and call the police. One more part from these guys.
What do you guys want people at home to understand about this situation? For them, you know, even speaking about what you guys are feeling is difficult. What do you want them at home to understand about this whole situation?
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure like everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them or anything, please call the police department.
Would you be willing to provide pictures, or do you have any?
I have older pictures. All my newest were on my phone.
Okay, that's fine.
A lot of people are speaking of this as, after the math, past tense. I want to talk about your kids in present tense. What kind of boys are these? Tell us about the boys.
Very playful, very rambunctious, and they do love to wrestle. They do love to kind of get rough with each
They're
other.
kids.
They're kids. Of course, they would love to go out, but so during the pandemic, we weren't trying to go, out here. And so we stay inside.
Okay, this is what I mean when I say it gets strange. The reporter says to them, what do you want them at home to understand about this whole situation? And Jacqueline says, we're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure like everything. We're not sure. We said that when we knew, and if anybody has seen them or anything, please call the police department. The concern there is for herself, not the boys. The concern is all on her. We're going through it. No concern expressed for these children at all. Big red flag. It's dark. It's cold. They're missing. They're not home. They should have concern for those kids. And they should be expressing that concern inside their language. Instead, they're expressing the concern for themselves and also showing that concern for themselves. Also, she does say, if anybody has seen them, which is a lot firmer than before, or anything, which just weakens the whole thing again. I think she knows that they're not going to be seen. There's no reason for making any appeal. That's why when she does, it's half-assed. Then we get strange. Would you be willing to provide any pictures, or do you have any? And she says, I have older pictures. All my newest were on my phone. Now, this is not a resounding yes, especially for someone so concerned with appearing helpful. It's not yes. It's a story. I only have older pictures. All the newest were on my phone. There's no, you need to speak to the police to get them, or I'll go and get my older pictures for you right now. Why is that answer phrased like that? I'm not sure I would have known from the words. Maybe I could have made some guesses at it, but I'll tell you why that was when we come to the conclusions in this episode. Why she only has older pictures, and all the newest were on my phone. Are they not there anymore? Have they been deleted? Again, this will all make sense when I get to the end. Then, what kind of boys were these? Tell us about the boys. And Trezell says, very playful, very rambunctious, and they do love to wrestle. They do love to kind of get rough with each other. This is his second description of the boys being a bit of a handful and a bit of a negative description of the boys. And if something bad has happened to them, I would bet it's because he has lost his temper, or she has lost her temper, because of what a handful these boys are, being rambunctious, wrestling, getting rough with each other. I think that was the cause of whatever happened to these boys if they're not around anymore. They're kids, says Jacqueline, thinking, yeah, maybe we need to soften this a bit. And guess what Trezell does? Repeats their kids. But you'll notice there's no depth. The two boys are lumped together. There's not anything about, the different stages of development or different likes that they have or anything like that. There's just no depth to this description of these kids. Then we get once more, of course, they would love to go out. Of course. Now that is telling us something here. This is a fact, and you need to accept this fact, because I'm saying, of course, they would love to go out. That's past tense, not do love to go out, which might be useful information for people searching for them. They love the outdoors. They would, past tense, love to go out. But we would, so during the pandemic, we weren't trying to go, out here, and so we stayed inside. And so, big flag for a story being told. And the story he's telling is that during the pandemic, these kids didn't go out. Why tell us this? He wasn't asked about that. He was asked what the kids are like. And he tells us what they are like-ish, and tells us they love to be outside, but they weren't allowed to be outside. Out here, where they live, we stayed inside. Why did he tell us that in all of that? So there we go. That is those guys, all the red flags. Very much the concern was image management. I'm a good parent. I really wanted to help. We really did search. But my concern is all about me. My concern is all about me, none about the children, and not calling the children by name. Big red flags. If you watch that interview and were suspicious of them, suspicion justified. And what happened? These guys have been convicted of second-degree murder and child abuse. The bodies have never been found of these children, as far as I know, at the time of recording. And also, there is a thought, because another child inside the house gave evidence, that these children had been gone. These two young boys had been gone for a long time. Hence the fact that she only had older pictures, that the newer ones seem to not exist anymore, and the fact that he, without being asked, wanted to tell us that because of the pandemic, they didn't go outside because the children had not been seen at that home and with those adoptive parents for a long time. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, or you can get in touch on the socials. neveratruerword.com is where you can get hold of me. Loads more videos, loads more podcasts as well on neveratruerword.com. If you want to dive deeper, you can become a member here on YouTube or a subscriber on Spotify. That gets you early access to episodes like this, and also gets you exclusive members or subscribers only episodes that go way deeper into the words that people use. All the info on neveratruerword.com. I'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word. And remember, the truth is always in the words.